In just a few hours from now, President Biden will give his final address from the Oval Office into our living rooms. And it has been a wild and complicated 4 years. And I sit here today wondering what Biden's legacy is going to be as his presidency was sandwiched between not one, but two Donald Trump terms. How will we remember Joe Biden and his 50 years of public service moving forward? Buckle up, dear friends. It is time for the Danielle Moodie Show, and we have a lot of breaking news today and a lot to unpack. Let's jump in. Hello, dear friends, and happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show. There is a ton of breaking news today, so let's dive in with what is of topic right now. After 15 months and countless deaths, countless destruction, I mean, what we have witnessed unfold in Gaza, in Israel, over the last 15 months has really tested the world's resolve, has questioned our morality, has posed questions such as whose life actually matters and is of value. After 15 months, Joe Biden was finally able to address the public and tell them that we indeed finally have a deal. Negotiators from Israel and Hamas have agreed to a 42-day ceasefire and hostage release in Gaza. President Biden and other leaders announced on Wednesday, raising hopes that a 15-month war that killed tens of thousands of Palestinians and destroyed much of the enclave would come to an end. We saw last year college students from across the country gather and rally and protest against the war, against the treatment of the Palestinian people, calling for a two-state solution. We've been told that this area of the world, it's too complicated for people to figure out. But what wasn't complicated, folks, were the images that we were seeing, that we've been seeing for the last 15 months of babies with body parts blown off, of destruction of universities, of hospitals being bombed, hostages being taken. We have seen, I believe, the absolute fucking worst of humanity throughout the last 15 months. We have seen formerly elected officials take it upon themselves to sign weapons of mass destruction, as Nikki Haley did when she was running for the Republican candidacy. She thought that it was a good look, right? To sign weapons that killed entire families, destroyed entire homes. We have been pleading in so many different ways with this administration to do something, to see the Palestinian people and their liberation as entwined to global liberation. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I had the privilege and the honor of going to Israel and Palestine in 2015 on a journalist information gathering week-long event. And I had never experienced apartheid outside of a history book. I have never experienced the type of segregation, dehumanization than what I witnessed with my own eyes. I am not a Middle East scholar. My expertise is on domestic affairs. But I will tell you that you did not need to be an expert to know right from wrong. When visiting the West Bank and going through and seeing that there are two separate roads that Palestinians and Israelis are able to travel on, that every time a Palestinian needed to go into a particular area, they needed to go through security checkpoints that are traumatizing, to put it lightly. To see people and their eyes absolutely devoid of hope and possibility, that's what I experienced. And as a Black woman, as a queer woman, I know discrimination when I see it. I know what it's like to be told that your people are the people that are criminals and thugs, that you, just by virtue of your birth, don't deserve to exist and deserve to be over-policed. I experienced Israel and Palestine through the lens of a Black queer woman in America. And I left there with PTSD, woke up with nightmares for at least a month following that visit. So I couldn't imagine, after only a week being there, what it would have been like to be there for a lifetime, trapped in an open air prison. So, like many Americans, I did not want my tax dollars going to, oh, I don't know, kill people. Because you see, the deaths of nearly over 100,000 Palestinians would not have happened without our money, without our tax dollars being used to fund this war. And when one side has the entire world behind them, can it really be called a war? And not what many people inside of Netanyahu's cabinet had said the quiet part out loud, which was a clearing out or a flattening. So I am grateful for the news today, as I know that many of you are. I am grateful that, inshallah, the rest of the hostages will be released. Those that are still alive and even those that are not, that their bodies will be returned to their families so that they can begin the very hard, long, rough road to healing. But, something caught me, which was when Biden, in his brief presser, said this. Mr. Biden said that in addition to the hostage releases, Palestinians would be able to return to their homes and receive a surge of humanitarian supplies. Quote, too many innocent people have died. Too many communities have been destroyed, he said in a speech at the White House. In this deal, the people of Gaza can finally recover and rebuild. Folks, have you seen the images and pictures of Gaza before and after? Return to their homes. There's nothing fucking left. The entire area has been demolished. There is nothing but absolute and total rubble. Rebuild with what? What are Palestinian people going to be provided with in order to rebuild? Is Israel going to allow for bulldozers to come in and construction equipment to come in? Like, what does rebuilding look like when they have spent the last 15 months demolishing every fucking piece of that small sliver of land that millions of people were living on? Is America going to provide the same amount of billions of dollars in resources that they did to destroy Gaza? Are they going to now send that same amount of money to restore Gaza? I doubt it, because in 5 days, Donald Trump is going to be president. He doesn't see the Palestinian people as people. For fuck's sake, the entirety of the Republican Party sees the billions of Muslims in the world as all being part of a terrorist cell. So what does it look like to rebuild? And because America was front and center in the destruction, what responsibility will we have? Will we demand of our leaders? But of course, there is no good deed that can go without Donald Trump inserting his own fuckery into it. And folks, I am not, trust me when I say that I ain't reading this mess, but I will thank this person on X who said, "Thank you, President Trump, for always being the credit grabbing asshole you are." And, and that is about sums it up. Donald Trump, of course, has taken to his broke down social media platform to take credit for this, and has said that, this epic ceasefire agreement could have only happened as a result of our historic victory in November, as it signaled to the entire world that my administration would seek peace and negotiate deals. Really? So then tell me why they didn't just wait until after you were actually president of the United States and not just a fucking blowhard, once again, looking for credit where credit is not due. But I want to play this for you all real quick.
The history books credit for this, Mr. President, you or Trump?
Is that a joke? Oh, thank you. Thanks, sir.
The fucking audacity of whoever that reporter was to say who takes credit, who is going to take credit in the history books for this, you or Donald Trump. And Joe Biden's response was, is that a joke? Just to be clear, Donald Trump is not president of the United States yet, nor was he president over the last 15 months. All Donald Trump is credited with is adding more fuel to the fire over the last 15 months. He did not offer up any help. So let's not get it twisted that somehow Donald Trump should be the one that receives the applause for this. And I appreciate so much Joe Biden's reaction, which is that a joke? And kept it moving. Now, word is that there were some people from the former administration, along with Biden's current administration, that did work together on certain efforts. But I'm talking about Trump. I'm not talking about staff. I'm not talking about people behind the scenes. I'm talking about what Donald Trump offered, and it was not a goddamn thing. But that is not going to stop him from doing what he always does, which is seeking credit and applause where it's not due. I tell you, it just, we're in for it. But I thought that this was important, which was a post put up by the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's daughter on the event. And she wrote this: I am grateful for the Gaza ceasefire and hostage release agreement and prayerful that it is sustained. I mourn the dead and mourn with devastated families. There are so many beloved children, parents, grandparents, homes, critical edifices, and pillars of community gone. And on his 96th birthday, I can't help but remember Daddy's words. There are revolutionary times. These are revolutionary times. Our only hope today lies in our ability to recapture the revolutionary spirit and go out into a sometimes hostile world, declaring eternal opposition to poverty, racism, and militarism. To me, profound. Also of note, Dr. King on Monday, this coming Monday, would have been 96 years old. Jimmy Carter just passed away at 100. Henry Kissinger just a year ago passed away at 100. When we are shown images and video of Martin Luther King Jr., I don't think that we understand how early in his life he was assassinated and how much work, reconciliation, and hopefulness was murdered on the day that he was taken from all of us. Imagine where we would be if we were celebrating his 96th birthday, as opposed to remembering him. You see, it is not that long ago, folks, that Black people in this country were literally and figuratively fighting for their lives and still are. But we like to believe that we have had this long, drawn-out history. Folks, the progress that has been made in the civil rights movement is only 60 years old. Some of you watching this are 60 years old. So I just want us to understand, like, the time frame, the time continuum that we are actually operating in. So Martin Luther King's assassination and America devolving after that, and continuing to try and find our ways as a white supremacist is getting ready to enter into the White House again. You see how much time passes, and yet a lot of things stay the same. It's it's extraordinary. It is extraordinary. So I implore all of us on Monday, don't watch the fucking inauguration, don't follow it on social media. Take the time to really learn something more than the I Have a Dream speech about Martin Luther King. Take the time to be in reflection on the amount of time we have spent in this country condoning slavery, living under Jim Crow, and the hot minute of 60 years that we have lived in an almost democracy, and what is about to happen. That 60 years in which Black people fought, lost lives, shed blood for the right to vote, that women were able to access bodily autonomy, that we've had affirmative action, that queer people have had the ability to marry and be treated like full citizens, that people with disabilities have been able to be treated like full and complete citizens. Folks, it's only been 60 years worth of that time. And in 5 days, the Trump regime is coming in to roll all of that back. So rather than, right, follow every bullshit Truth Social post or every tweet or whatever it is, take some time this coming week to have some deep reflection about how short our foray into actual and full democracy has actually been in our near 250-year history. It hasn't been that long. Speaking of Donald Trump, fuckery that he is continuing to say and offer, which is that, oh God. So here he says, for far too long, we have relied on taxing our great people using the Internal Revenue Service, IRS. Thank you, Donald, for spelling that out. Through soft and pathetically weak trade agreements, the American economy has delivered growth and prosperity to the world while taxing ourselves. It is time for that to change. I am today announcing that I will create the External Revenue Service to collect our tariffs, duties, and all revenue that come from foreign sources. We will begin charging those that make money off of us with trade, and they will start paying, finally, their fair share. January 20th, 2025 will be the birth date of the External Revenue Service. Make America great again. Does anyone in the class want to raise their hand and say why this entire Truth Social post is bullshit? Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? So Donald Trump believes that he is going to up the tariffs and taxes and duties on foreign entities, and somehow that's going to benefit Americans. Well, contrary to what his imagination has conjured up, world-class economists have said the absolute and total opposite. That by imposing increased tariffs on foreign nations, guess who pays for it, folks? It's not them, it's us. So what this post offers is the realization that Americans are going to be doubly taxed. It is the birth of the double tax on January 20th, 2025. Because the people that will be paying the brunt of this is, ding, 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 American consumers. Because what exactly will happen? Well, let me tell you. The goods and services, largely which come from, let's say, I don't know, China, Canada, Mexico, and other areas, they will receive large tariffs for their exports to us. And in order to pay off those tariffs, what will they do, class? They will raise the price of those products and have that trickle down cost come to the American public. So when you go to the grocery store or you do your next order on Amazon or wherever it is that you go, and you pull up your cart and you're just like, I don't understand. I'm buying this mattress. I bought the same mattress a year ago and it was, I don't know, $500, $600. That same mattress is now going to be $700, $800, $900. Why? Because Donald Trump is going to be taxing, instead of working on, I don't know, thoughtful trade agreements, he's going to tell everybody that they need to pay. But the only people that are going to be paying are the American people. And by the way, when he also said that he was going to bring the cost of things down, well, he already said a couple of weeks ago that once prices go up, they're very hard to come down. So guess what? Your eggs and your gas, which, by the way, are at record low since inflation, will stay the same, if not skyrocket under Donald Trump. Everything becomes more expensive when you hand over the keys to the kingdom to the idiots and the grifters. So, yay for the External Revenue Service, which is just going to be a double tax on the American people. I mean, how do people not get this? How do his followers not understand? But then I look at the state of our public education system and I understand why. Because they actually have no idea. And Democrats clearly do a very shit job of trying to explain to the American public why this is not good. So maybe don't use things like tariffs and just say, Donald Trump's economic proposal gonna make shit a lot more expensive for y'all. Right? That's it. He is not going to bring down the cost of anything. Everything from our grocery store to manufacturing goods to cars to gas, all of those things are about to go through the fucking roof. We will be lucky if all we end up experiencing is a recession, because I believe that Donald Trump is going to drive this country into an absolute fucking depression. And the only thing that will be left to eat is the rich. So, speaking of which, let's move on, shall we, to the continuation of committee hearings that are taking place. On Capitol Hill today, Pam Bondi, who absolutely has no qualifications whatsoever to be the Attorney General of these United States, but what else is new? I believe, what is she from? Wrestling or some shit? I don't know. Evidently, whatever. But in this line of questioning, which I thought was fantastic, by Senator Mazie Hirono out of Hawaii. Well, you just listen.
During the campaign, first, are the felons convicted of breaking into the Capitol on January 6th hostages or patriots, quoting Trump, as President-elect Trump has said repeatedly? Do you agree with his characterization of the felons that I referred to?
I am not familiar with that statement, Senator.
I just familiarized you with that statement. Do you agree with that statement?
I'm not familiar with it, Senator.
No answer. He has also said illegal immigration is poisoning the blood of our nation. He said that in December 2023. Do you agree with that statement?
Senator, I am not familiar with that statement, but what I can tell you is I went to the border a few months ago. I went to Yuma, Arizona, and what I saw at that border was horrific, Senator. It was horrific.
Ms. Bondi?
My favorite part of that was when Pam Bondi is like, I'm not familiar with that. I'm not familiar. And she's like, I just familiarized you. I just said what he said. And I said, do you agree with it? And then your response is, I'm not familiar with that. Are you slow or stupid? Which one is it? You know, because one I can have empathy for and the other one I don't. So, folks, I mean, this is who's coming in. And to folks' point in the chat, yeah, they're all going to get confirmed. They're all going to get confirmed because guess what? You don't need qualifications to destroy the agencies that you're being put in charge of. That's the point. They're not there to actually do the job. They're there to undo the agencies. She is there as a pit bull for Donald Trump to go after his political opponents. She's not there to secure justice. She's not America's top cop. She is Donald Trump's pit bull. That's what she's there for. And it just makes sense that all of these people would come from fake ass UFC, right? Like it just makes sense. Like it's right. You know, like, oh, what is the fakest form of entertainment? Wrestling. Let us get all of the people that are involved in that and then put them in government and then think that government is going to sustain itself moving forward. It's exhausting. It honestly is. But like I said earlier, Biden is set to deliver his farewell address today, capping a 5-decade political career. The president has sought to portray his administration as transformative, but his speech on Wednesday night comes amid a backdrop in which he is not leaving on his own terms. Biden has released a letter to the American people ahead of his address tonight at 8 p.m. And here's just a little piece of that. It has been the privilege of my life to serve this nation for over 50 years, Mr. Biden wrote. Nowhere else on earth could a kid with a stutter from modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, one day sit behind the resolute desk in the Oval Office as President of the United States. I have given my heart and my soul to our nation, and I have been blessed 1,000,000 times in return with the love and support of the American people. Joe Biden did give his heart and soul to this nation. I believe that. Joe Biden spent a majority of his days back and forth on Amtrak, on the Acela corridor between Washington, D.C. and Delaware. He's experienced loss upon loss that is honestly unimaginable for most of us. And still he pressed forward, trying to do his best for the American people. I can say that I believe that Joe Biden's legacy is going to be a complicated one. It is going to be layered. His presidency is cemented between 2 Donald Trump terms, sandwiched between 2 Donald Trump terms. What Trump did in his first administration is what allowed for Joe Biden to become president. But what Joe Biden did as president once again allowed Donald Trump to walk back into the White House. Hundreds of thousands of people Their lives have been taken because of Donald Trump's, of Joe Biden's unwavering support for Israel and Netanyahu, who embarrassed him multiple times on the world stage. Joe Biden told us in 2020 that he was here to fight for the soul of the nation, and yet put the most lackluster AG in charge of the Department of Justice. He told us that Donald Trump was a threat to the nation. And yet it took him being publicly pushed out of his job to recognize that he wasn't the one to take our democracy all the way. And in doing so, provided his vice president with only 107 days to convince a racist and patriarchal society that a Black and Asian woman could take the helm. At the same time, he fought for student debt relief. He ensured that Americans all received the vaccine following the nightmare of COVID. He lowered the cost of prescription drugs. He actually created a bipartisan infrastructure deal. He elected more Black women to judicial positions than any other president. He appointed the first Black woman to the Supreme Court. Joe Biden has done a lot. My fear, though, is that he won't be remembered for any of that. That instead, he will be remembered as being the man that opened the door once again to Donald Trump. And that his legacy will always be intertwined with Donald Trump's. That's my fear for him. This man that dedicated 50 years of his life, lost multiple children, his wife, and still continued pressing on for the American people. I'm not sure he will be remembered for that. And it is horrible. Because I do believe that he deserves more. But like I said, this time continuum, this space, this construct that we live inside of doesn't have us really remember things. They become distorted. They become fractured. They become flattened over time in the same way that Martin Luther King's legacy has been flattened. The very Republicans that are banning books and calling everyone who is not white a DEI candidate are the very ones that go ahead and post his quotes and his face on their social media once a year. Oh, why don't we all follow the teachings of Dr. King? Bitch, you didn't follow the teachings of Dr. King when he was alive. You're all just the manifestations of Bull Connor. Segregation now, segregation forever. You're all just, right? Like reinventions of that same old, tired, broke down racist. So will we remember the 4 monumentous years of Joe Biden? Or will we remember the 8 non-consecutive years of Donald Trump and the end of our democracy. Something tells me that it will be the latter. I don't know what Joe Biden will offer up in his farewell address tonight. But if it is not a warning to the American people to stay vigilant, to stay hopeful, to stay connected, if it is not the grave disappointment and fear that we all collectively share about what is to come in the coming days, weeks, and years ahead, then he can save it, to be honest. Because I don't need a recitation of all the things that he has done, because it's all about to be undone. So, what will his legacy be? Only time will tell, my dear friends. But I wanted to end with something hopeful today. Just a reminder that there are people, millions of people, billions of people living around the world inside of all different types of governments. Draconian, oppressive, delightful, horrible, and life still presses on. They still find ways to make magic, no matter how small. They still find ways to find joy, to make art, to have families, to live. And so I implore all of us not to continue to catastrophize and feel like in order for us to say that we are woke, that we need to steep ourselves in misery day in and day out in order to show how much we care. Don't do that. Live. Because what is going to be is going to be. I'm not telling you to ignore it or to be political ostriches. What I'm saying is you have to focus on continuing to live, to aspire, to progress. And so today in Texas, State Representative Venton Jones, a Dallas Democrat, proposed to his longtime partner, Gregory Scott Jr., moments after being sworn in. Jones popped the question when the House went into recess. And
Scott,
it's beautiful.
you married me? Really? Really? So cheese. You got it. I got it.
What happened, Vento? What just happened?
We just got engaged on the House floor.
How awesome. Let's see it. Let's see it.
Why did I share this with all of you? One, because I, like most of you, search for good things on the internet to counterbalance the bad things. This happened on the House floor in Texas. We all know exactly how Texas treats Black people, people of color, and queer people. Joy and their love is an act of resistance. A resistance against a state that refuses to recognize them. I thought that this was exquisite. Because of course it is their engagement and how wonderful, and he's sworn in and incredible. But what a significant way to show your love, to show your power, to show that you're still here than what they just displayed on the Texas House floor. So it is a reminder to all of us that resistance is as varied and as beautiful and as layered as all the rainbows. It doesn't have to look one way. We have extraordinarily dark times ahead, dear friends. We can each choose to be a lantern, to be a spark. That is what I'm calling all of us to do. That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. As always, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, stay safe. And as a reminder, if you are liking these shows and liking this channel, please do hit like and subscribe. It goes a very long way. Like, comment, subscribe, and share with all of your platforms, outlets, friends. As soon as I hit end on this live, it is posted and you can share it out. Also, make sure to hit that little bell that you see so that you never miss an episode, you never miss a show, and it will set a reminder for you. I want to thank you all again for your extraordinary donations and your just generosity. It helps me as an independent media creator to be able to deliver the kinds of content that you all deserve. So I thank you so very much. Each dollar means the absolute most. I will see you all back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, which is our Call to Action Thursday. And for those of you that are new, it is when we close the week with what can we actually do, right? We're not just going to sit around and bitch. We're not just going to sit around and go, woe is me. We're actually going to take steps in our own lives, in our own communities to be the difference that we want to see in the world. So I will see you all back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Appreciate all of you. Take care.